Assalamu alaikum friends, I am Atif Ali and today we will discuss sonnet. The term sonnet is derived from Italian word sonetto or sonata, means a little song. Sonnet originated in Italy and Giacomo da Lentini is credited with its invention. He was an Italian poet of the 13th century. His poetry was concerned with courtly love. According to the typical structure of Italian sonnet, the sonnet has two parts. First, the octave, which is of 8 lines, and then sestet, which is of 6 lines. The octave describes a problem or a question and it is followed by sestet, which presents a resolution. Usually the ninth line starts what is called the turn or volta, which indicates the move from problem to resolution. In many sonnets, if we do not have a problem resolution structure, the ninth line still has a change in the mood of the sonnet. The writers of the sonnets are usually called sonneteers. Sonnet was used by famous Italian poets. Sonnet was used by Dante and Petrarch. Petrarch is known for the sonnets which he wrote for his beloved Laura, and that time sonnet was used as a synonym for love poems. The rhyme scheme of Italian sonnet was abba, abba, cde, or cdc, cdc. When Thomas Wyatt introduced Italian sonnets in English literature way back in 16th century, his sonnets and the sonnets of Earl of Surrey were mainly the translation of Petrarch. It was Henry Howard, Earl of Surrey, who developed the rhyme scheme of English sonnet, which is AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF, GG. Thomas Wyatt's sonnets and Henry Howard's sonnets were published in Richard Tottel Songs and Sonnets, better known as Tottel Miscellany, which came in 1557. Tottel Miscellany became the first anthology of English literature. Sir Philip Sidney wrote a sonnet sequence in 1591 called Aristophel and Stella. From that time, the English fashion for sonnet sequence started, and in the next 20 years, sonnet sequences came from Edmund Spenser, Michael Drayton, Samuel Daniel, and William Drummond. Sonnet sequence is a group of sonnets by a single author which have the same theme. These sonnets are all poems of love. They represent the feelings of the writer. Edmund Spenser wrote a famous sonnet sequence Amoretti, which had the rhyme scheme of abab, bcbc, cdcd, ee. Edmund Spenser's sonnets are also called the linked sonnets as they do not have a break between octave and sestet. The sonnets also have the epigrammatic final couplet. William Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets, and out of 154 sonnets, 126 sonnets are addressed to a young man and the last 28 sonnets are addressed to a woman. In 126 sonnets which are addressed to a young man, we find a dedication to one Mr. W.H. The identity of this person remains a mystery. He may be William Herbert, Earl of Pembroke. He may be Henry Wriothesley, Earl of Southampton. The last 28 sonnets are addressed to a dark lady. No one knows who that lady was. Shakespearean sonnets have 3 quatrains and a couplet. The change comes in the couplet and it summarizes the theme of the poem. In the 17th century, John Donne and George Herbert also wrote sonnets, but they were religious sonnets. John Milton also wrote a famous sonnet called On His Blindness, and he chose the structure of Petrarchan sonnet for his sonnet On His Blindness. The fashion for writing sonnet faded during the Restoration period, but came back strongly with the French Revolution and also during the Romantic era. We can find Wordsworth, Shelley, Keats writing so many famous sonnets like Two April Morning and Ozymandias etc. In the 19th century, the wife of Robert Browning, Elizabeth Browning, wrote famous sonnet sequence called Sonnet from the Portuguese. Modern Love by George Meredith is a collection of 50 16-line sonnets about the failure of his first marriage. Gerard Hopkins also wrote major sonnets often in sprung rhythm, for example the Windhover, and 10.5-line sonnet called Peat Beauty. Among the modern great poets we can find W.B.Yeats writing Leda and the Swan, Wilfred Owen's writing Anthem for Doomed Youth, W.H. Auden wrote Unrhymed Sonnet, The Secret Agent in 1928. After 1950s, there has been a trend going on in sonnet genre of writing unrhymed, half-rhymed and unmetrical sonnet, and in this regard, Seamus Heaney's Glenmore sonnets and clearances are very famous. Last but not the least, we have Crown of Sonnets, which is a lyrical poem consisting of 7 sonnets which are interlinked. The last line of the first forms the first line of the second, and the last line of the second forms the first line of the third, and the last line of the last sonnet repeats the first line of the first sonnet. John Donne's La Corona is an example of crown of sonnets. If we talk about meter, then with a few exceptions, iambic pentameter has mostly been used for sonnet, but in the modern age we do not have any fixed meter for sonnets. With this, I have come to the end. Thanks for watching this video.